Let's now look at developments in Durban for SADC's meeting. We go live to our SABC News specialist correspondent, Sophie Mokoena, who joins us where the 46th SADC Summit is taking place. Sophie, good to have you on the program this afternoon. Give us a sense of the significance of this meeting. South Africa is taking over the SADC chairmanship at a particularly important time for the region. What are the key issues likely to dominate the summit?
The key issues on the agenda of this summit is regional integration, your climate change, issues of migration and trade and investment, but also looking at how you can ensure that the region is industrialized, and you look at using your minerals in this region to get to that. But also the other critical issue will be tomorrow, the organ on politics, defense and security will be meeting. It is currently chaired by Malawi. You know that Troika deals with issues of peace and security in the region. High on the agenda will be the Madagascar issue. As you know that there was a coup in Madagascar, and the Troika decided to appoint a panel of senior citizens in the region that would include Joyce Banda. And they were sent to Madagascar to speak to the people of Madagascar, but also to get the process of putting Madagascar back to the issue of democracy. And therefore, we expect that report to be presented tomorrow. But I think the other important issue now that the Troika will have to deal with, it's the situation in Zambia. You know that Zambia is the incoming chair of SADC after South Africa next year. South Africa is supposed to hand over the reins of chairmanship to Zambia, and therefore people are watching and monitoring the elections in that country. Earlier on, we heard that counting has been suspended according to the Electoral Commission in that country. And I think this is the first challenge for President Ramaphosa as the incoming chairperson of SADC to look at that situation and monitor how this issue will be resolved and whether counting will resume, and finally election results will be announced but also be accepted in Zambia. And therefore the issue of peace and security, you now have countries monitoring the situation in Zambia.
You mentioned the name of President Cyril Ramaphosa. He has spoken about deeper regional integration. So what specifically does South Africa want to achieve during its 12 months at the helm of SADC?
High on the agenda is that regional integration, peace and security, the issue of climate change, and also how you address the issue of migration. Earlier on, when the president was delivering the SADC lecture, public lecture at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, he pointed out that it is important to remember what our forebears on the continent in general said about the integration of the continent. But for that to happen, you have to have integration in regional organizations, whether you're talking SADC, you're talking ECOWAS, you're talking East Africa Community, or you're talking the Horn of Africa or the North African countries. You must achieve regional integration, and the regions, when they integrate, they will then have this continental integration. The president spoke about that. Going back to what people like the late Pixley Isagaseme said when he spoke about a need of Africa to work together. And we know that when the African National Congress was launched in 1912, that conference in Bloemfontein, you didn't only have people from South Africa. That is why it was called African Native Congress. Even the kings kings and queens of the region, of the southern region were there. Whether you talk about King Moshoeshoe, the late King Moshoeshoe of Lesotho, who became almost the chair of an organ or structure of the then Native Congress that was dealing with the traditional level of the ANC at that time. And therefore, it wasn't only him. You had people coming from Zambia, people coming from Malawi, people coming from Eswatini. And therefore, that regional integration call came as early as 1912. And now, how do you arrive at that? But unfortunately, many have forgotten that call by Paisley Isagaseme, who was born in this province, who made that call that the southern region and the continent must unite. But also, you look at how do you ensure that this continent and this region in particular is industrialized. We are in eThekwini, you know the harbor here. You have a situation where goods are going through this harbor, coming from different countries from the SADC region, up from as far as Kenya, besides your DRC, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. And that speaks to movement of goods via the Durban port, which is very, very critical for the economic survival of this region. And therefore, that is why working together, the region can achieve that industrialization. Lastly, you have raw material in this region. You have lithium in Zimbabwe. It is now a very important commodity. People are really scrambling for lithium because for countries to develop, you need lithium. And therefore, you have to work with Zimbabwe on that and platinum. You have South Africa. Lots of minerals here, including the rare earth minerals that you can use to develop technology. And therefore, you really need South Africa's resources. We see China using and leveraging on the resources that we have on the continent. You go to the DRC, cobalt, every cell phone, you have cobalt in that cell phone. And therefore, we shouldn't send cobalt outside the region, but rather let's manufacture those cell phones and technology equipment here on the continent so that we can get better value for the minerals. When you're talking diamonds, Botswana, how do you help Botswana to become a powerhouse in terms of using diamond to develop the economy of the region? You go to Angola, oil in abundance in Angola. How do you assist and work together with Angola to ensure that that oil, it does leave the shores of this region being processed? Whether you go to Namibia, hydrogen, they have recently discovered a lot of hydrogen there. And therefore, even as it relates to the clean energy, this region does have those resources that can help us to move to the fourth industrial revolution. And therefore, industrialization of this region is quite important. And that can only happen when countries are working together. No country is an island. And pushing other countries away, you will be isolated and you won't be able to leverage on these opportunities, because we know some of the people, we know that many businesses or business people, men and women in South Africa are also doing business outside South Africa and including the whole continent. 45% of trade, South Africa and Africa, it's quite a huge volume of trade, and that helps to develop South Africa, and by extension other countries are developing too.
Our SABC News specialist correspondent Sophie Mokoena joining us live from Durban at the 46th SADC Summit. Of course, South Africa's 12-month chairmanship will now be measured not only by the commitments made around the summit table, but by whether those decisions translate into more trade investment, infrastructure, like you heard from Sophie, security and economic opportunities across Southern Africa. A very important meeting happening out in Durban.